Welcome to Tigers Untapped, a Bluff City media podcast. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, TJ Willis and Trey Lasley. Pull up your chair, grab your favorite brew, and enjoy the conversation. Now, let's get to the show.
What is up, Bluff City Nation? Obviously, if you're watching, we got a co-host fill-in tonight. My man, Kenny. What's up, dude?
What's up,
The
man?
older, wiser, shall we say, better-looking version of TJ?
Can I just tell you, I feel a lot better.
Kenny, you're not going to believe this. My beer is...
It's overflowing. That's a rookie error. What did you do?
I dropped it about 15 minutes ago, but I did the...
You did the
little knock
tap
on the top, and we didn't work.
You did the tap. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you.
That's a good brew, though.
I have been really nervous about getting on with you guys because, honestly, Trey, I thought you guys were like 26 up until like a week ago.
Kenny texted me something. I don't even remember what it was, but I said something about being in college with Will. And Kenny was like, damn, dude, wait, how old are you? We're in college. And I was like, Kenny, we're 30,
you were like, you talked about being at
34.
You talked about being at your
kids,
girlfriend's
man.
house. You talked about being at your girlfriend's house when you got pissed off about the SMU game with Will. And I was asking you, I was like, dude, how old were you? You were 10 years old at your girlfriend's house?
Kenny thought I was an 11-year-old at my girl's house, pissed off about SMU Memphis.
But so it made me feel better, bro, honestly, because like I am
we are the same.
Out of the entire Bluff
same.
City media family, I am the second oldest. And that really does damage to my soul. And so I legitimately thought I was hanging out and working with a bunch of like young bucks, but you're not too far off from me, man.
There's some young in there. I do. You can't see it on camera. I got white patches in my beard already.
Listen, I'll just say this. You still play soccer. You still play soccer every week. Like if I tried to get out and play a game of basketball right now, Trey, I would have a broken femur.
You'd be in a bucket of ice tomorrow.
Probably a couple of torn Achilles. That would have been something that scientists and doctors would never. They don't know is in your body. I would somehow figure out how to tear if I try to play basketball. You're
sending a lot of bad juju my way. I feel like right now.
No bad juju.
All right. First things first. Kenny is participating tonight, but I know he's not a beer guy. He actually ran out to his local Kroger's. Yeah, I threw an S on there. And tonight we're rocking with the High Cotton Mexican Lager.
There it is. Hold on.
Yeah, you don't want to explode.
Don't explode.
Ideal.
Let's not explode.
But smooth, sessionable lager packed with flavor from the use of traditional German malts. It's crisp, refreshing. Get this. I don't know if you have a lime by you, but it says best served with a lime.
I need a lime. What's that Will Ferrell Wedding Crashers? Ma, lime. Anyway.
Lime. No, this is good.
I'm going to need your help. Do I open it now?
Yeah.
Oh,
get that busted and get you a sip in. Wet the palate.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, you can't be telling me a rookie move and then I'm
a legit rookie, bro. Like I don't do this often. So help me. Like, do I need to? How do I hold? Do I hold the can like what?
If you want to be like in true TJ form, you got to have a pinky out. Okay, I think that's what he's been doing. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
All right, here comes the first sip. Do I go ahead and give my rating? No, I'm just joking.
No, not yet.
I'm joking.
That would be very rookie. But hey, moment of silence for TJ. Let's pour a little bit out for TJ. TJ not here. He's not injured or sick or dead or anything. He's just traveling.
Can we tell everybody what he's doing?
I don't think that's an issue. He's going to Minnesota. He will be at the Grizz T-Wolves game at the Target Center tomorrow night, which is pretty cool. And then, strangely enough, he's not from Minnesota, mind you. He is a Vikings fan. So
how did that happen? How did that? Where's that from?
I've asked him before, so shout out to Randy Moss for being a superstar during our childhood. I think
That's what it was.
Randy swayed TJ to be a Viking for life, if that's what they call them. I don't know what Vikings fans call themselves. Vikings for life.
Vikings for life. Yeah. I mean,
so he will be at Grizz T-Wolves tomorrow night, Wednesday, or I guess tonight if this is coming out Wednesday, and then at the Viking. I don't know who the Vikings play Sunday. Maybe like the Jets or something.
So he started off his fandom of Minnesota with Randy Moss, and now they've got Justin Jefferson on their team. I don't think anybody expected them to be as good as they are, but they've got probably one of the best receivers in the entire game right now.
If best receivers and best touchdown dance, I don't know. If the Grizz and the Vikings win this weekend, TJ will gritty on the podcast next week.
Has he committed to that, or is that
he hasn't? We're committing
him to
right now. Yeah, he's doing that.
I'm gonna need to see that. That's definitely gonna need to happen. Yeah,
we'll find out as he listens to this in the airport tomorrow.
Shout out to my guy TJ, man. Like, listen, I got kicked off my podcast over on the Bluff. Christian got rid of me after 2 weeks. Brought in Gabe Kuhn. So when Trey texted me and was like, "Yo, TJ's laid up in the hospital bed and he's
bailing.
He's bailing on me. Can you help?" I was like, "I'm not coming over here to try to fill TJ's seat. I'm just gonna throw that out there to you." I was very nervous about joining this tour de force that is Tigers Untapped. I was very nervous about joining it tonight.
We're such a elite production of just incredibleness. It's
y'all have a fan base. Y'all have a fan base that is passionate and follows you. This is a dope little thing y'all got going on over here, man.
We're lucky. I'll say that. All right, into what we thought was going to be an incredible feast week turned out to be. I mean, for the basketball team, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was good. I
mean, I will say 2 heartbreaking losses, one by each of the squads this weekend.
Right.
Football first. I guess.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Like,
I'm okay. I'm okay. Look, I'll say it this. How do I say this? I've almost come to expect it, which is I'm in a bad spot, but I'm okay.
So apathy is not a good thing, right?
And it doesn't have anything to do with the team. It's just my fandom in general. I feel like
are you cursed? Do you feel cursed a little bit?
Oh, yeah. 100%. It feels to me anytime it comes down to a last second anything that my team's on the wrong side of it. I'll tell you what, I was 93% confident today during the U.S. soccer game that Iran was going to score a last-second goal to tie it and crush our dreams.
I mean, yes.
And they almost did.
They almost did. Absolutely. It was very, very close. That little – I don't know soccer the way that you do, but that kick that kind of went around the side of I thought that was it.
Yeah.
I thought that
they had a header right before that almost went in too.
Yeah.
But no, I'm fine. I was getting a lot of hope on that last drive on Saturday. I really felt like at the bare minimum we were going to go to OT, but there was also a part of me. I was at my in-laws' house. We were watching, and they were like, "Oh, this is so great, Trey. They're going to win, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, just wait, something's going to happen. And sure enough, like the timeout before the pick, I had a buddy text me and said, "This pick's going to suck so bad." And I was like, you know what? He's right. We're probably about to throw a pick. And then sure enough, next play, pick in the back of the end zone, ball game. And it's just like, I've kind of come to expect that. It doesn't have anything to do with the players, not the team. It's just my fandom. I feel like I'm on the wrong side 95% of the time. So that's where we're at. I don't, again, it felt like they came out strong. We got up, we came down, score. I think we had 5 possessions in the first half, punted once.
Yeah.
You did miss a field goal, which obviously into the win, that's tough.
Right.
Just a bad break. But I felt like they came out and they were playing well. We were running the ball right out of the gate. I tweeted it. I said, I felt like this is going to be, the end to the non 100-yard rushing streak where like 24 games straight or something. Dating
two
back
seasons.
to last year.
2 straight seasons.
Which is absurd. And then we didn't get one. We didn't.
With Memphis, man. Like with Memphis, how absurd it is. It had been 2 seasons since they've had a 100-yard rusher.
Although TJ and I talk about this all the time with our friends, and we look back and we're like, at the time, we did not realize how lucky we were to have the running backs that we had.
I mean, just 2 years ago, there were national publications that were calling Memphis running back U.
Oh, yeah. Which is wild. And I wouldn't have argued against it.
No.
But we didn't have – it started out looking like we were going to have a 100-yard rusher. Didn't have one. Didn't have a 100-yard receiver. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't remember the last time that happened. I think this is the first season since 2011, I want to say, that we haven't had a single 100-yard rusher the entire year. Now, obviously, we have a bowl game to go. But I don't know. We got to figure out a way to get – and it doesn't even have to be back to like Henderson and Antonio. Like, I'm not saying give me like a 1,500, 1,600-yard rusher, but like give me a capable – like let's have some 100-yard rushing games in there.
Based on what you saw, though, do you think the Tigers have that guy on the roster right now?
I mean, I think Sutton or even Coffee could be one of those dudes, right? Like they've shown, I think, flashes of being able to break off some of those runs. They're a little shiftier. They're a little quicker. And Sutton got the start the other day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And then it just kind of, I don't know what happened. He stopped kind of getting carries after the first quarter, it felt like. I mean, I think one of those guys can be it. I think you could also probably maybe find a little bit older guy in the portal or something for next season. But yeah, that's definitely something I feel like moving forward, they've got to make a priority. You know, whether it's finding a guy or Sutton or Coffee being one of those guys, or if it's issues within the offensive line and schematically there, like you got to figure it out. Because this is, like we just said, it's 2 years in a row pretty much where it's just been super underwhelming, to put it nicely, I guess.
I do want to ask you about that in a little bit after we get off the SMU game, about what some of the needs are the Tigers have that they need to upgrade during this offseason. But, you know, back to the SMU game, I think the trend that was so frustrating to me this year was that there seemed to be more games than not a quick start, right? Like came in with a game plan. You hear most college and NFL offensive coordinators and head coaches talk about they have scripted out 2 drives worth of plays. And it seems like those things work, right? Like it seems like those things work. They have them scripted out based on what they kind of envision the game plan to be. And then after those first 2 drives, then they kind of make adjustments on the fly, that kind of stuff, figure out, you know, drop a play if it doesn't work, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
That to me seems to be the place where the Tigers have struggled the most this year, is in those, after those first 2 scripted drive. And I'm not saying they have scripted drives on 2 or scripted drive, like 2 of them. I'm just saying after they get past that first adjustment
before
period,
the defense has made real adjustments. But the strange thing to me is like that almost happened. It probably wasn't exactly midway point of the year, but if you think back to the first 4 games at least, it's almost the opposite.
Right.
We were coming out and struggling early. We got down 35-3 to State and then played better in the second. I mean, it was like 5th or 6th game of the year, and we were leading the nation, I think, in second half scoring, fourth quarter points specifically, right? You think back to the Temple game and it was 3-3 or whatever it was into the fourth quarter, and then we roll off 21 points in the fourth.
Right.
So yeah, it's like, but yeah, the last several have definitely, you know, the ECU game was a quick start. The SMU game was a quick start.
The Houston game was a quick start.
The Houston game for 3.5
quarters was a quick start. Is that a quick start or is that a sustained start?
For 3 quarters and 11 minutes was a quick start. Like, so yeah, now it's seems like, the second half of the year, it's been almost what you're saying. Yeah, they've come out. And then once the defense makes adjustments, it's like we kind of end up stalling a little bit. And I don't know exactly what it is. Like, if that's truly what it is, they're making adjustments and it's taking us a little bit to figure out exactly what the defense is trying to do now, or what they've figured out and what they're doing. But yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and something, to watch as we in the bowl game. Are they going to come out and have another fast start, or is it something where they can put together 4 full quarters, after a couple weeks of practice and prepping for that? So definitely something to watch.
Well, I know last week you talked about with TJ, you said one of your keys for the game against SMU was shutting down Rashee Rice. Yeah.
About that. I tweeted it out, and a way to ensure that you don't shut him down. And this is nothing. This is not me
not hate.
picking
this is not
on
hateful. This is not hateful.
But you can't have linebackers in man-on-man coverage on the best wide receiver in the country. It's just not going to work.
I tweeted that out when that happened. I said,
at least get my guy some help over the top or something.
I said, whatever defensive scheme ends up with Tyler Murray guarding the best wide receiver in the country, toss that away. Don't use that ever again.
Yeah.
That was tough.
He had what, 13 catches, 150 yards and a tutty. We definitely did not lock him up. Oh, he's for sure. Like I said, he's, one of, if not the best wide receiver in the nation. But defensively, yeah, you can't have a linebacker one-on-one with that dude.
No.
Give my guy some help.
No. But everybody else.
Again, that was also one play. I'm not saying we were rolling out there over and over again, having him one-on-one. But
yeah. The defense stood up and shut down their running game again. Shut down another team's running game. They didn't.
They started out strong too, right? And then they got the stop, with 2 minutes left that they needed to get. You kick it onside right there. You get the stop, 3 and out, get the ball back. They gave up yards. They gave up some points, but when we needed it late in the game, that big Tiger D did stand up.
Yeah. Hey, we almost had Javon Ivory had 98 yards receiving.
I know. I thought about that when I said we didn't have a 100-yard receiver or rusher, but I'm like, hey, 98 is not.
Is there a grading curve here, like a grading scale? Can we bump him up?
I'm not bumping it up.
No bumping up? Okay.
I'm not bumping that up.
You're a tough
98.
You're a tough grader, man. You're a tough grader. Let's put your kind of forecasting hat on in terms of offseason and kind of getting into the portal, those kinds of things. We got some big news tonight broken by Bluff City NIL, Bluff City Media on Twitter. Caden Prieskorn is coming back. Frank Bonner over at Daily Memphian broke that Seth Henigan is coming back and that Ryan Silverfield will be back. Dude, what does that tell you? First question, with Seth and Caden coming back, obviously there's going to be some dominoes that fall that go out the door. There's going to be some guys they're going to bring in, but specifically your starting quarterback and your, kind of prominent tight end guy who's got a chance to be a pretty effective tight end for your team, willing to come back after such 2 pretty tough seasons. What does that tell you about the team, the locker room, the culture, the thought processes about Silverfield? What does that tell you?
I first and for and I think you can see it on the field too. It showed Saturday night. I know there was a point in time when the sideline reporter said we looked spiritless and all this stuff on the sideline, but the fact that they came back, got the ball back, drove down the field, the players are still bought in, right? And even the dudes that we talked to,
I've been on the sideline. I've been on the sideline for a lot of games, Trey.
Yeah.
Never seen them spiritless. That was, I heard that and I was like, nah, take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, sorry.
And that's also, that could have been anything. You walk by at the wrong time. There's no telling what occurred when, that sideline reporter went over there, right? Like, but the main thing, I mean, they're still bought in. Are you on 2 already?
I'm on 2, baby.
For not a beer guy, that is impressive.
I am also not a small guy, so
you are making that can look tiny. Is that a 6-ounce can? Where did you find 6-ounce Mexican lager cans?
At the Kroger's.
Dang.
Yeah.
No, I think, they're bought in. I mean, obviously, those are 2 guys that have starting positions that are locked in. So it's also a little bit easier for guys like that to stay, right? I mean, given the NIL environment that we're in, sure, somebody could come in and offer them something at a larger school or whatnot. But I mean, I think it just says that the team still believes in what they're trying to achieve. And they probably see the same thing that we were just talking about, right? Like, they probably feel like they are right there, right? It's not like they're coming out and just getting absolutely obliterated and blown out week on week. It's, like we said, a play here or there, and they could be 10-2 and playing Saturday for the conference championship.
Yeah.
And I think they see that and they understand that, and they're still bought in and trusting in the process that Coach Silverfield's, outlined in front of them.
Absolutely.
But from like a portal standpoint going forward, like, I mean, there are some guys that have a 5th year that could come back. I mean, you got Chris Howard and Doyle that could come back. I don't know what you think about this, but David Kemp entered the portal.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes me think that maybe, I mean, he hasn't announced, but maybe Chris is back for a 5th year.
I would suspect so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, started out the year great. At one point, he was like 15 of 15, the only kicker in the nation that had attempted that many kicks and not missed one.
Right.
Doyle can be back, who was, I think, top 5 in the nation in punting.
Yep.
So from a special teams perspective, kicking specifically, I mean, I feel like you're pretty good there. Eddie has a 5th year that he could come back for, a big one. And I mean, this as well as anybody, but Jalen Allen has a 5th year. He could come back. So from a defensive side, just an overall, I think, leadership side for the team in general, like, that would be massive.
Yeah.
Asa can come back. From a portal, like, even though you've got Caden coming back, I still feel like we're kind of missing that, like, explosive receiver. I mean, you're losing Gabe, who was kind of like your speedster guy out there.
Right.
We've seen a little bit of, like, Rock Taylor, a little bit of Cam Wright, but if you could go out and get and Skates, and I mean, we saw flashes, but he's been injured the last couple of games, right? So I think if you could go out and get one more, or like a real go-to receiver. I mean, we talked a little bit about the running back room, but I like Asa and I like Sutton and Darius Coffey. So, like, if that's your guys coming in with Ducker, like, I think you're fine there.
So do you think, honestly, like, I know one of the big differences from this past year was that Ryan talked about wanting to find that one running back, and obviously that didn't work out this year, right? Like, they didn't have that. If they bring back the same guys, is that not going to be the same kind of deal? Or do you think that having another year of off-season training and spring camp and fall camp and summer workouts with Sutton will get him? You think Sutton could be the guy, or do you think it's Ducker next year? Or could it be Asa?
I think Sutton could be the guy. I think you give him a full off season, a spring. I think you very well could come in next year and he is the one guy with sprinkles of Asa maybe to catch out of the backfield or whatnot.
As much as I love Asa,
somebody there.
I love Asa so much. Like, his story, I think I told you guys this a long time ago. Getting to talk to him this offseason, his story made me just a massive Asa fan. But Asa kind of shows you who he is, and he's effective. But it's the in spurts thing that kind of is a struggle, I think. And so that's what I think the Tigers are going to need to find, is someone that can be consistent. Somebody that can be the guy who week in, week out is getting big plays knocked out from the backfield, like the Tigers have had since 2017.
So a perfect example of that was that run that Ducker had the other night at SMU.
Totally agree.
That, like, 40-yard.
Yeah.
And this, I don't want to say that he's slow because he's damn faster than both of us. But that's a play right there that I feel like Sutton would have been gone.
Gone. Yeah.
Right. And that's like that explosiveness we're talking about missing.
Yeah.
And I think you give Sutton, like I said, another offseason, and next year that could be him, and that he's in at that situation and he is gone. And there you're back kind of having those explosive run plays that you've kind of been missing.
I agree. What did they have? I think they had like one play, or maybe not even one play this year over 30 yards from the on the ground.
And it was the first game against State, that 50-yard touchdown run.
And that was it.
And the Saturday was the next closest. I think it was 40.
I mean, just that is a stunning stat from Memphis.
Yeah, considering 4 years ago, it felt like we were having at least one a game.
Or if you go to the SMU college game day game, Antonio Gibson had like 10 of them in one game. Kenny Gainwell made it. And listen, I want to caution people to not judge all these running backs based off of Kenny Gainwell, Antonio Gibson, Darrell Henderson, Tony Pollard. Like, these guys are all elite NFL running backs, NFL contributors. Like, those guys don't come around too often, especially to a school that, is not in the Power Five. And so, I think you kind of get used to those kinds of players being involved in, like, being on your team, but that's not totally normal, but I do think Sutton might be able to be that guy next year. Could he be the next guy up?
Yeah. No, I mean, I've everything I have seen out of Sutton so far in the touches he's gotten he's looked great. He's shifty, quick. He hits the hole hard.
Yeah.
He's got good vision. Like, I think he's got everything you're probably looking for. He just needs another offseason.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Christian brought this point up on the Bluff podcast that we do, and I thought it was so good. The Tigers have never been a defensively, like, uber talented stalwart team. Like, they've never been led by their defense.
Nope.
And that's the one thing I think that's missing. This defense was actually, man, they statistically did some good things this year.
Yeah. And I think they improved. I mean, there are times, they struggled with third down. It did feel like at times when we needed to stop, we couldn't get one. But, like, statistically, you're right. They improved and have had much better numbers than we've seen recently. And that's another thing that's encouraging. You asked earlier about if there's anything to feel good about. I think going into a second year we had two new coordinators on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And I think going into a second year, depending on who you're able to bring back, like, there can be some significant improvement.
Absolutely.
And it helps tremendously to have gone through a year, played, and then to get another full off season.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not focused so much on implementing. It's more of like tweaking and fine tuning things and putting guys in the right spots and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the thing that was missing the most from previous Tiger teams is just that explosive playmaker in the offense. Like, that's what was, I think, the biggest glaring thing to me this year, and specifically in the last 2 years. Well, forget that, they had Calvin last year, but this year in particular, it was less of a big play. There was very little fear that the Tigers were going to bust off a big play on you this year, like they have in the in past years. And so, that's what I think is going to be interesting to see, is can they find somebody like that? Can somebody that's on the roster now be that guy, be that step up and fill that role? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. And there were moments this year where we did have that, right? Like, you had
Joe Skates. Yeah.
Skates. You had Gabe throwing freaking dimes to Asa in the Houston game, right? Like, there were definitely moments, and when we saw flashes of it. So to me, it's like, how much of that falls on the offensive line, and what health-wise, we know we had guys in and out. We have guys kind of moving to multiple positions. So it's like, I think the best offensive line is one that's got a lot of continuity, right? Everybody's in their assigned position. They've been playing it together. Like, so when you have injuries and different things that are impacting that and guys are moving all which way, like I wonder how much that plays a part of it. And like you see some of that too with the amount of times that Seth was having to run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I want to see anything for and that's not like Seth's capable, but just from like keeping him healthy and getting the ball to other playmakers, like I do not want to see him being our leading rusher for multiple games
Does
with
not need to
yardage or
happen.
attempts.
No, does not need to happen. Let me ask you this though. You talked about it, could that potentially be the offensive line? To me, and this is no disrespect to him at all, but to me it felt like our play calling got a little bit stale at times. Like you mentioned, and what brought that to me was you mentioned the Gabe Rogers play to Asa in the end zone against Houston. And
Yeah.
that was that one game they were coming out of, a couple of losses, I think, at that point. And no. They were 4-1 at
back
that
to
time.
back. No, they were 4-1.
They were 4-1 at that time. That was the beginning of
Yep.
the 4-game streak. And they had played kind of a relatively subdued game against North Texas the game before. And everybody was like, man, we want to see some stuff. And so they came out and just started bombing, right? Like, but then you just didn't see a lot of that at the final part of the year. You didn't see a lot of creativity on the offensive side of the ball. And that could be a roster thing. That could be a personnel issue, not being able to be creative. But it definitely felt like there was a couple of times, especially in this SMU game, where I was like, I when they came out on offense, I was like, I know what they're going to do. They're going to pass on first, run the ball up the gut on second, run the ball up the gut on third, or run the ball up the gut on second, and try some kind of pass on third down and long, and have to punt the ball. And that seemed to be kind of a common theme throughout the year. It was just kind of a predictive play calling.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, some of that definitely could be personnel stuff. I mean, but some of that too could fall on protection, right? Stuff like the reverse pass, like you got to have time to be able to get that off, right? Like some of your creativity is limited if there's not time for some of that stuff to develop. So like there could be a couple different reasons why. I mean, yeah, some of it definitely could be personnel and some of it could definitely be like issues within just timing and protection to be able to get some of that stuff off. Oh, so now I got to relive this heartbreak all over again. Because you're going to talk to me about a dude that came into our game 0 of 1 from 3 for the entire year and then goes 2 of 2, including a freaking banked in 3-pointer on Thanksgiving night when banks are supposed to be closed, Kenny. And
yes.
I'll tell you, this is where I'm at in my fandom. I talked about earlier how my team is always on the wrong side of things. When Elijah dove for that ball and got fouled and sent to the line, I said he's going to miss these, and then they're going to hit this 3, and it's going to – I texted my buddies, my group of friends, shout out GBs. It's going to suck when they make this 3. Now, I thought it was going to be like a legit Drano 3. I wasn't expecting some last-second
prayer.
Shoot, I have the ball. I'm not supposed to be shooting it and throw it at the goal, and it banks in.
I think his eyes were closed. I think his head was like, his head was turned. Yeah.
He could have thrown it behind his head. That was going in. It didn't matter how he shot it.
Yeah.
So heartbreaking.
I saw people blaming Chandler Lawson for that. I'm like, God, are you kidding me?
He was right there. I mean, I see what they're talking about because he did take a second. He kind of got caught up on the actual inbound, but like he was right there. I mean,
no one in their right mind thought that guy was taking a 3-pointer to try.
There was no reason for that 3 to go in, and it went in.
It did. Heartbreaking though, right? Like last week, you guys talked about with Will talked about it being a Q1 opportunity, the only probably Q1 opportunity throughout the weekend, and they lost it. Now they're 0-2 in Q1 opportunities this year. Lost to SLU or SLU, and then lost to Seton Hall. I mean, those are 2 resume building wins, but pretty lost. I mean,
fashion. That's what makes it so frustrating and upsetting, I guess, is the fact that that was an opportunity and you had it right there, right? Not only, I mean, you could have put it away with free throws, but then we got the offensive rebound. So you're like, okay, definitely we got it in the bag. And then you turn it over and they end up winning. But I mean, I think that's what makes it that much more painful is like, we're not going to have a ton of Q1 opportunities. We're not playing in the Big 12 or the Big E or where you're night in, night out, you got a Q1.
Right.
Almost. So like, I mean, like we said last week, I mean, that was almost the most important game. Now, could Stanford or not Nebraska, I don't think. Stanford, they're picked 5th in the Pac-12. They could end up being top 50 maybe, and that could end up being a quad 1 game come March, which would be great. But like at this point in time, that Seton Hall game, I feel like, was the most important. And then it definitely doesn't help that they go and lose their next 2 games after beating us. Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So just from that aspect and being in the tournament, like that was one that you really wanted to have. But like we've talked about and people have said, like, shout out to the team for bouncing back, right? Man. It could have been real easy for them. And I feel like in years past, that's something we would have seen where, you know, they may have come out and lost the second game as well, and then maybe squeaked out that third game and gone 1-2 and come back home. But for them to bounce back, still go 2-1. I mean, I think it's not the perfect scenario, but it worked out fine.
Trey, I was at the SMU game last year in Memphis, and I forgot how kind of the schedule broke down. But it was that home game against Memphis made infamous by Penny Hardaway's meltdown. I wouldn't even call it a meltdown.
When we had like 46 dudes out with injury.
Yeah, when there were so many guys out with injury. And I listen, I want to retract the meltdown statement because it wasn't a meltdown. It was very calculated, I think. I don't think it was I think he came in. I think he pulled Jeff Calkins aside and said, "Hey, ask me this dumbass question."
Are you telling me this was scripted?
Listen, no, Jeff would say absolutely not, and I agree. I don't think it was scripted, but that, anyway, I was there for that. I was there for that. I was there for the game. But here's the thing: so everybody remembers that meltdown, that freak out in the post game. That SMU game was brutal. I'm sitting there on the baseline watching them play and just going, "Oh no! Like, what is happening?" Nobody wanted to be there. The fans didn't want to be there. The players, you could tell, didn't want to be there. The bench was terrible. The toxicity that was coming off that bench was just unreal.
Yeah.
And that was coming off of a few losses, right, where they had just gotten gut wrenched by Ole Miss and Georgia, and Murray State had come in and beat the brakes off of them. And I mean, it was just a rough couple of games. And that was kind of the culmination of that SMU game. And so you're right. Like when you talked about this whole like Seton Hall losing that heartbreaker to Seton Hall, having to turn right back around and play Nebraska. I said this in the previous podcast, play Nebraska and then come back on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and play Stanford. Like they could have been like, yo, dude, I'm done. I don't want to play this. These games don't matter. We're playing for 5th place here. But they played hard those 2 games. Hard.
And dude, that is what I've said it numerous times. I mean, this may not obviously be our most talented team. I mean, by far, but nothing else. They play harder than any team we've had in years.
100%.
Every night. And obviously there are times when they're struggling offensively. I mean, we went 5.5 minutes the other day against Stanford without scoring. But when they turn up the intensity, dude,
it's another level.
They turn it up.
Well, Penny talked about that in the post game. He said, all I got to do is say circle. I say circle and it's on.
Come out and say circle. Damn, scream.
We know what he's.
Hey, I'm screaming circle tomorrow night.
I'm going to record
I sit
this.
close enough sometimes I can yell it.
Circle. Circle. Start screaming circle. Get the student section, the fantastic student section that shows up to the game. Start getting them to say circle.
Yeah, we need a circle chant. The forum just goes at it, and then the team just freaking lights them up.
Absolutely, man. Who were you most impressed by? Like, so obviously that Seton Hall game was rough. DeAndre had a terrible game, played 10 minutes, 5 fouls. I mean, dude, like that's unacceptable And DeAndre would tell you the same thing. It's unacceptable. You're the oldest player on the team. You've been in this system for longer than anybody except for a couple of players. You absolutely cannot do that.
Yeah, and it's the frustrating part about it is like there's going to be nights where it's just calls aren't going your way, right? You're playing tough defense and it's a foul. Like it's not, but I mean, that night, dude, he was putting himself in spots and doing stuff that was so goofy. And it's just like, bro, DeAndre, what we need you in this game. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, the bear hug foul.
I mean, come on.
And then like, I don't know what it is. But DeAndre, if you're listening, we know that you are. We can't have any of the no more bear hugs on anybody, bro. Just let it go.
Let's not be bear hugging people, please.
Let it go. We need you too bad.
Who were you most impressed by this in those in the bounce back games? Who were you like, okay, this is something here?
I will tell. I mean, obviously, I'm most impressed by Kendrick, which is weird to say because like Kendrick. He's what he can do. But just to come back, I mean, we saw him twice. He went out again. Like his ankles are still clearly bothering him, right? Like, but just to be able to battle through that, to want to battle through that, like there's guys out there that wouldn't have done that. Like you said, they'd have lost that first game. They said, "Hey, my ankles are effed up. Like I'm sitting out these two. I don't want Nebraska. Nebraska basketball. I'm not playing." But second, like, I mean, I've been impressed by Keontae.
Yeah,
like, dude, that dunk the other day. Bro, I jumped up about as high as he did off my couch when he did that. Like,
video or
he's showing
happen.
some flashes of
video or didn't happen. I got to see you jump that.
I'll have to go look at the Ring camera. I
Okay.
think the Christmas tree's in front of it though, so I might.
Out of luck.
We'll see.
Yeah,
but I mean, he's. It's not like he's out there knocking down every three, but he's hitting some open threes.
Yeah.
Drove the lane, dunked on dude's head. Like he's playing hard defense. He's diving on the floor. Like,
yep.
I mean, I want to see Keontae put out there with that first five.
I do too.
At least until, DeMaria can get cleared. And obviously Penny talks about him being the third best. So I think he's going to naturally fill into that role. But like, in the meantime, I want to see Keontae out there at the start of the games.
Who would you want him to replace, Jaden or Alex?
I mean, I think Jaden.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Alex gives you enough defensively. And I mean, at least in Nebraska and Stanford, he kind of turned it around offensively, right? Like he knocked down 3 threes and he's not, obviously there are times where, he drives the lane, leaves his feet and doesn't know what he's doing with the ball. And we end up with a turnover or something like that. But like, I've always been an advocate that Alex more than makes up for his turnovers or what have you with defensive plays, or he makes a play in a crucial moment that more than makes up for whatever may have happened earlier in the game.
Yep. I agree.
And I mean, he said it the other night, like he's never had more fun or been more comfortable in the role that he's playing.
Yep.
Yeah, he had a couple bad games where he went basically over from the field, but like we also all know that he's not like our offensive go-to guy. If we need a bucket, it's Kendrick.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so I think I would put Keontae in for Jaden, leave Alex and Kendrick at the 1 and 2 kind of duo guard. And
if I hear you correctly,
circle it from the get-go.
If I hear you correctly, I don't think that's a disrespect towards Jaden. Jaden's earned minutes. Like he deserves to play.
I mean, I'm not saying by any means that like Jaden doesn't need to be out. I mean,
there's just a struggle offensively at the beginning of the game that could be alleviated by a guy like Keontae because there's a level of aggression and playmaking ability that he has that Jaden has to be most of Jaden's buckets come off facilitation, right? Like someone facilitating the ball to him, not or distributing the ball to him.
Yeah.
Keontae can go get his bucket if he needs to, or he can stand in the corner.
Well, and a part of that too is like in some of those moments where you're struggling offensively, your best offense is a defense, right?
Yep.
So you apply that pressure, you're getting out in transition, and sometimes that's what it takes to start to kind of get the offense to start rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's going to be interesting, and I think that that is it's pretty clear to me that defensively this team has not lost a step defensively in terms of, and that's a systems thing. You bring in Frank Haith as the assistant coach. You already got Penny, who is a fantastic defensive mind. That's the identity of this team, and so
100%.
that's a hell of an identity to have. There's nothing that facilitates a good offense more than a defense that turns people over, rebounds the ball, and gets moving. But there definitely has been some struggle offensively, and I think we ad nauseum, every podcast that talks about the Tigers, every radio show that talks about the Tigers, ad nauseum, who's the third guy? We understand that that's a need that they have. But I think that the ceiling for this team is going to be higher if they make a few adjustments to their lineup, whether that's DeMaria, whether that's Keontae, whether that's maybe Malcolm coming in and starting instead of Chandler. I don't know.
Hey, to go back to who's impressed me,
man.
I mean, I'm throw Malcolm out there too.
So
even his hedges out there on the perimeter, dude,
right?
He's getting little jabs away. He's taking cookies out there from guards at time. Like, Malcolm's been playing good. Give him good minutes.
Happy for that guy. He deserves it.
Absolutely.
He's been through a lot. I've covered him since high school. And so I was in the locker room in the regional game against Whitehaven when he injured his knee. The injury that kept him on the sideline for a little bit his freshman year at Memphis. And so I remember what that was like for him. I was at his house after the surgery. You know what I'm saying? Like all that kind of stuff. Like this kid is very, very holds a very special place in my heart. And so it's very good to see him performing well after all that he's been through.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. I know y'all talked about it a little bit on the Bluff, but how much better can DeMaria make this team?
Oh my God. Well, we have history with this, right? I talked about this on the Bluff. This is the second out of 3 years that there's been a guy that is a major rotation player that has been deemed ineligible by the NCAA for the better part of the first half of the season.
Yeah.
We remember what happened with DeAndre when he came into the game against Tulane in 2020 and how it was like an instant spark.
Immediate. Yeah. I mean, you could feel it through the freaking. Yes. Well, yes, I can remember to this day sitting at my buddy Jonathan's house and we were like, damn, this feel like he has brought so much energy. Like this is what they were talking about.
It was like my veins were open and I was like, give me like the,
we started doing jumping jacks.
Yeah.
We were ready to roll.
It was wild. It was
so
wild.
You think it's similar to that?
I think no matter what his production is on the floor, it's similar to that because I've seen DeMaria on the sidelines. I've seen him talking to the team. I've seen the way that the team interacts with him. He is absolutely one of the best teammates that I've seen in the 4 years that I've covered this team. Like the whole tone and tenor of the bench is different with DeMaria on the bench.
You can tell that this team likes each other.
100%.
Yeah.
So even if he comes in and doesn't automatically score 18 points a game like he did for UIC, I don't care. Like there's going to be an injection of life because he's out there playing. Yeah. That's just you can see it in the players' eyes. They gravitate to him just like they gravitate to Alex Lomax. They gravitate to Alex Lomax. That's why Penny trusts him so much because I said this on the Bluff. It doesn't matter who you are, an old dude walking into the Laurie Walton or a young kid walking into the Laurie Walton. Alex is the guy that he's the gatekeeper of that entire facility for that team. And I mean, you see it. no matter who's been on the team. And DeMaria has that same type of energy. And so do I think, like, what will he do when he's eligible? He averaged 18 points in college, which I don't care who you play for, where you play, what league you play for, whatever you do. You don't average 18 points a game without being a damn good offensive player, having skills. You just don't do that. So I think there's going to be talent. I think he's big. He's going to add a level of physicality. He's a rebounding guard based on his time at UIC. But I think the biggest impact is just going to be that same impact that DeAndre had in 2020.
Yeah, just bringing that energy.
Yeah. Like they're all together, because you're right. These guys like each other. Will said this last week on the show. These guys like each other. They love each other. They want to play for each other. And so there is going to be a lightning rod of energy that comes into that game when DeMaria is out there.
Yeah. I mean, dude, the best teams that I've been a part of may not have been the most talented, but they were like, we just loved being on a team together, right? Like we hung out outside of practice, outside of games. Like we just all got along. We were all friends. We all came out. We played hard for each other. We played hard for and I feel like that's what this team is.
And that's what last year's team was missing. They didn't like each other. Like I'm telling you, man, you know, I won't spill tea or anything like that, but that I've talked a few times tonight about the bench, right? The energy of the bench.
Yeah.
Because I have a baseline seat right next to it. You know, you'll see my big ass on TV sitting right next to the bench with a camera like this. So
Kenny got his feet propped up on the last seat on the bench.
I do. I'm sitting there chilling. But last year's bench, I've played basketball my entire life. Last year's bench was one of the worst, most toxic things I've ever seen in my entire life in sports. It was horrible, and it was very
gross.
It was gross. This season, nope. Absolutely 100% opposite this season.
Yeah. I mean, y'all talked about it on the Bluff too. Like Penny would tell it. I mean, he told us last year, right? He was open some would say too open about it.
Yeah.
And this year he's just as open, talking about how much this team likes each other, how much he loves his team, how much fun they're having. And I think that tells you, I mean, this team could probably go as far as they wanted just based on that alone, like playing hard for each other. They play hard enough defense. Like, sure, they're going to struggle at times offensively, maybe, but like, I'll tell you what, I don't even care that much about the shooting's coming around. They shot 40% from three against Nebraska. Like
they're fine. Yeah.
34 almost against Stanford. I mean, what I get hyped about and what I'm looking at after every game is the freaking KenPom deficiency rating. Like, and they've done it twice already, but like every time we hold a team under 50 points, I'm getting hype. I love it.
100%.
I love it.
It
can be ugly games, but dude, they play so hard defensively and it gets me. I love that.
I think one of the biggest differences, and that for me makes me feel like the Tigers have a chance, is that even in the midst of those struggles they were having last year, the team never really felt like they were enjoying themselves, like we're having a good time. Like even in the wins, it didn't feel like a fun time. It didn't feel like they were enjoying being around each other. This year is just like the talent level might not be as high as the ratings told us that they should have been last year. But I will say, we know that Penny's teams play better at the end of the year. We know that that's how his teams have worked. They've worked that way for 3 straight years now. And if, past behavior is the best sign for future behavior, then I think that that's what's going to happen this year too. And so even though they came out of these first 6 games 4-2, lost their first 2 quad 1 wins, or quad 1 games, I think they still, like, the energy, the togetherness is just a different level than it was at the same time last year when they were struggling through all that stuff. And so this team is going to only get better as they move along this season. And if that camaraderie, that passion, that whatever stays the same, I agree with you. They can go as far as they want. They just can.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, like this team can get so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of, I mean, I feel like they're playing. I mean, they've had, they had a St. Louis game where defensively it was an off night, right? I mean, offensively, we almost put up 92. And then you lose on a banked in 3 in a game where your second best player did not play
it's like 10 minutes,
huge majority of the game, right? But outside of that, like, I think they are by far in the last 4 years playing the best basketball that a Tiger team has been playing at this point.
I agree.
So for them to already be there and then us talk about how much they like each other, like, dude, come March, they can be a scary team.
Well, and I think what we're going to see happen is you still have to, when you bring a new team in like they did, like all these older guys that have played ball for a long time, but separately, when you bring them all in together, you still have to define roles. And so that's what's happening right now. And the thing is, what I like about it is as they are defining roles and trying to figure out where things are going to go and how they're going to do it and who's going to do what, there is very little ego involved in that.
Yeah.
On this team. Last year's team, a lot of ego, undefined roles, made for
everybody's the guy kind of thing.
Made for what we saw last year.
Yeah.
This year, undefined roles, still trying to figure all that out. It'll happen as the season goes along, but still everybody's in lockstep with each other right now. So there's room for growth. There's room for, the natural evolution of a team throughout a season. This is what happens, especially in college.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about NBA.
I mean, I agree with you, but I do think that at this point in time where we are right now in the season, we haven't had roles. It doesn't feel like defined like they are this year. I mean, I think, yes, they're still getting ironed out. It's going to change a little bit when Franklin gets cleared and that kind of thing and lineups are changed. But like, I mean, I think we have pretty well-defined roles right now.
I just don't think – I think the biggest roles is not necessarily what you do when you're on the court. It's who you're playing with, what you're doing, like when you play. Like it's the lineup changes that happen.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
It's the who's going to be in the second, who's going to be the ball carrier for the second squad, who's going to be the shooter, who's going to be the guy to lean on. Is it going to be Lawson? Is it going to be Keontae? Is it going to be who's it going to be? Who's going to be the starting five? Like those are roles that still need to be clearly defined, and they haven't been yet because their whole roster is not available. So when it happens, they're going to be okay.
Yeah. No, I for real, I get you there. I was looking at it more of like, if Kendrick's on the floor, he's the go-to guy. He and DeAndre, they got the 1-2 going. Chandler's out there. He's grabbing every board known to man and getting putbacks, right? Jaden's out there spotting up, kick out, shoot, knock down a 3, right? Alex is just tough, gritty defense and making plays. Like, but from a lineup perspective and who's falling into the 8th man and that kind of thing, those are still kind of getting worked out for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, 2 big games this week. I say big. North Alabama tomorrow. Shout out to my in-laws from Florence. Tigs 26.5-point favorites. You like the Tigs to cover that? That's a lot of points, Kenny.
It is a lot of points. I don't understand the over-unders, the stuff like that. I'm not good at stuff like that. So I'm going to follow your lead. Do you like the Tigers to cover?
Oh, that's a lot of points. North Alabama is 327. Yeah, I'm going to say we cover.
We cover. Yeah,
we cover.
Well, we covered in football. We covered in football against North Alabama. Let's see if we can keep that streak alive against North. What are the North Alabama? What?
They are the Lions. And fun fact, they've got 2 live adult lions in captivity in the center of their campus.
Like I know they're in captivity, but are they just tied to a tree or they?
No, they got like a cat country in the middle of campus.
So like the Memphis
I
Zoo
know
cat
you're familiar
country.
with cat. Yeah, you know cat country. Kenny
I know
spends a lot of time at the Memphis Zoo. If you guys didn't know,
me and
it's like
Tabo are
it's a
me and
second home for
me
him.
and Tabo are good friends. Tabo's the big male lion. He's awesome. Anyway, that's
What's
awesome.
his
North
name?
Alabama, Tabo.
Tabo. Shout out Tabo. If you're listening, we know that you are over there in cat country. Shout out to Tavo. Yeah, no, they're the Lions. Got two of them on campus, which is pretty cool.
It makes me laugh every time you say that. I love it. I love when you say that. Anyway, sorry. When I'm so behind the scenes, I'm editing everything that TJ and Trey do. I love it. I look forward to when Trey says, "We know that you're listening. If you're listening, we know that you are."
Hey, most of
Anyway,
the time they are for
hey,
real listening.
that has happened a few times this year. We know that they're listening.
And you can make sure that Tabo hears this too when
I'll
you're
go.
at the zoo the next time.
I could put some headphones. I'll put some headphones on him and let him listen.
Just play it in his tiger den.
Yeah,
You
they
know what I
cover.
would like to
We'll
see
cover.
though is UNA not break 50 points tomorrow. Would love that.
VCU didn't break 50.
I know. Stanford didn't break 50.
Let's go.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
And then the big one this week,
Yeah.
starting out our sort of little mini SEC run. The Rebs out of Oxford come up to the FedEx Forum Saturday night.
We owe
That
them.
could, I mean, that's an important game. They're sitting at like top 50 in KenPom. Obviously, I don't think they'll end up being a quad one because they'd have to get to top 25. But they had a nice little run down there in Orlando. Potentially could have played them twice. There's no line on it. KenPom's got us as a 7-point favorite, 69-62. They've had a good little start to the year. Kermit's got them playing good ball early on. They are 6-1. Lost to Oklahoma by 4 in the championship of that ESPN Invitational, so should be a good one on Saturday. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. That's a game you can't lose that, right? That's the kind of game early on last year at home where it feels like a Murray State, right? Where they're kind of that like, right. Although Murray would have ended up being a quad one. But if
Murray
a
was
good
pretty
opponent, a good opponent at home, but you should win the game. I mean, that's one you got to have. People are talking about us going 2-2 in this little SEC spurt. I mean, I think that's got to be a game you pull out. You got to win these home games for sure.
How do you think people are going to react if they go 2-2?
I think it's going to depend on what the two L's are and what the two. I mean, it's going to depend what they are. If the two wins are Ole Miss and Texas A&M at home, and then you lose both Auburn and Alabama,
yeah,
that's another
right.
That's another 0 and you'd be 0-4 probably at that point in quad one, which is concerning. I would rather split Ole Miss and A&M at home and split Auburn and Alabama away. That way you're at least but me personally, I want the Ole Miss game. Win Ole Miss, win one of Auburn and Alabama, and I'm good. I'm Gucci.
Alabama's tough.
I mean, Auburn's going to be tough.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But they're gettable. I watched part of that St. Louis Auburn game. Auburn, I think, is gettable, especially being neutral site.
Yeah.
Alabama in Tuscaloosa 3 days after playing Auburn in Atlanta will definitely be tough.
Who's going to be your player of the game tomorrow against North Alabama? Who do you want to see make a stand? Who do you want to see? And don't go Kendrick. Everybody knows that.
I'm not going. Hey, I wouldn't. To be honest with you, I was thinking about this before we started. Well, I say this, and this would totally backfire. I would not mind resting Kendrick tomorrow.
I agree.
Banged up, both ankle. I mean, the dude, they've damn near said he sprained his ankles 24 times since he got on campus.
Is there like somebody like dropping, like what is going on?
Dude, some people just have bad ankles.
Is this a Vanderbilt court at the Lori Walton facility?
I've never seen. I don't know. I've never seen somebody tweak their ankles this much, but I wouldn't hate to see him rest tomorrow. I think that's a game where you can afford to do that. I mean, you better be able to afford to be able to do that. I mean, I would like a Keontae Kennedy breakout game. Like give me a 15+ point night. knock down a couple 3 balls, maybe give us another highlight jam on somebody's head.
Can I make a prediction?
Yeah.
We're going to have 2 20-point scores tomorrow night.
I don't hate it.
Deontay Kennedy, Jonathan Lawson.
Let's go. Okay, let me ask you that.
Mm-hmm.
We got no J-Law run on Sunday. What was that about?
Penny said it. If the matchups don't work,
Wasn't in the flow?
it wasn't in the flow. And by the time it was in the flow, it was too late. You're not going to put him out there in the heat of the game after 40 minutes of ball playing or after 34 minutes of ball playing and put him out there.
Which I do. I respect that. Playing, I only played at the high school level. But I can say,
absolutely,
if there was ever a moment where you sat for an extended period of time and hadn't got any play in the game at all, and then you get thrown out. Like there was a particular game I remember I didn't play the first half at all. Probably disciplinary. I don't know. I was a terrible kid, or I just didn't get to play.
I get it.
And then was thrown out there mid third quarter, and it was maybe the worst thing that's ever happened. I was stiff as hell, cold, hadn't no flow of the game, didn't know what, and it's just the worst. Yeah. So I respect the don't just throw somebody out there ice cold and halfway, 3/4 away through the game for sure.
We got to remember, man, Penny is evolving and learning as he goes, right?
Yeah.
As a college coach. This is a new version, a new mode that Penny is in this year that I love. Love it.
No, we talked about it the last 3 years is how many dudes were playing, how deep the rotation was. And he said it himself to start the year, no more sympathy minutes, that he was at times putting guys out there just to be like, yeah, go get you 4 or 5 minutes. And he's not doing that anymore. So that's definitely something he's learned and is improving upon.
I think we are going to see, I'm going to call back to last week. I think we're going to see Jonathan Lawson from Will Coleman's Pro-Am type Jonathan Lawson coming out tomorrow. I think he's going to play as much as he wants. I think Penny, this is going to be considered kind of a bounce back game for him. He's going to get him minutes. He's going to put him out there, get him some run, let him get some confidence. I was watching this golf thing the other day. Bryson DeChambeau was talking about when you go through
don't bring me Bryson stuff in here.
Bryson DeChambeau, the biggest, baddest long driver.
He's lost all of his weight.
Has he lost all of his weight? What happened?
I mean, he cut it back. He said he was feeling terrible. Dude, you got to go look at what his eating plan was. My guy was drinking 8 protein shakes a day.
That can't be good for your body. Like your body shuts down.
Wondering why he felt horrible.
He needs to get a nutritionist. But he was talking about on the golf course, when you go through stretches where you don't go under a lot, you don't get your at par or your 2 above par, 1 above par, and you're just not seeing those. He goes, I always tell, and this, he goes, I tell this to pros, instead of going to the tips all the way in the back, go play the front tees and go 8 under and do that a couple of times just to feel it, just to get that feeling. That's what this North Alabama game is going to be for Jonathan Lawson tomorrow night.
I like that. Anytime you can throw a golf reference in there, I'm all about it.
Yes, sir.
All right, so Tiggs 2-0 this week.
Yeah, I think they're going to beat Ole Miss. I think they are. Yeah, the Tigers are owed after last year's game in Oxford.
So bad. I was down there. It was awful.
I was there too. It's terrible.
I felt so. I've never
I felt such anger.
I'll be honest. I yell at the opposing coach, the players. I felt so bad for Amani last year in that game.
Dude, can I just tell you something behind the scenes? We walked into the media tunnel after the game, into the media room, waiting for Penny to come out. And I have never, man, listen, I'll say this about Memphis media. Y'all can bang on us all you want, but there is a level of professionalism that comes from the Memphis media that you would expect to see at a larger SEC school. There are some of these reporters that would cover Ole Miss that were coming back into the room and were straight trashing Amani to Memphis media, like disrespectfully trashing Amani. I felt so bad for that kid after that game. I'll just leave it there. That was terrible. deeply disturbing. So
Gross.
The Tigers are owed.
Yeah, we need a beat down now.
So then I can go
2-0, 2 beat downs.
Let's go.
Let's do it. All right, on the beer, Mexican lager, very good. I will tell you this. We've talked about it before. I'm not the biggest fan of the high cotton cans. They got this two face thing going on, so very plain. And then I guess that's a cotton. I don't know.
I'm just gonna let you roll. I'm just looking with you.
Can I'm going. This is so meh. Like a 5.1, if that.
I mean, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of block, like bold lettering. I like that. I don't need flower. I don't need like a lot of colors. I like the color schemes. I like color schemes, things that look.
I think it's also throwing me off that I got this big ass barcode sticker on the side.
That's a little weird. Yeah, the Kroger's
because I bought it.
That.
I bought it as a solo at the liquor store.
Yeah.
All right, give me your can rating.
10.0.
10 point. This is the best can you've ever seen in your life?
The best can I've ever seen in my entire life.
Kenny. I mean, if there was ever a rookie score that has ever happened, that was it. This is the best. You will never see another can better than this. This is the best can you've ever seen.
More than likely, I won't see a better can than this one right here.
Oh my gosh. Oh, all right. Rolling with it. I can't wait to have TJ back. I mean, that was embarrassing. A beer rating though, this is good.
I like it.
I don't know that it's like a winter beer. It doesn't feel wintry, although it's not too wintry tonight. It's been storming. I didn't enjoy it with a lime. That might have enhanced it, but this is a good beer. I could definitely drink multiple of these. You did drink multiple of them, and you're not even a beer guy, so your crushability rating's got to be through the roof.
It's through the roof. Probably a 10.0. Probably a 10.0 on the crushability.
Okay. You can't rate anything anymore. These are so rookie. Beer rating. This is good. I'm gonna go 7.9.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a. You are a connoisseur of all things lager and beers.
That's strong.
If I could like. This was very good, and it's clear I liked it enough to where I drank 2 of them in a hour and 27-minute podcast. So I liked it. I'm not great.
You just throw it out. I know what you want to say. Just throw it out.
As you've seen in the past 2 scores, I'm not great at this. So I'm going to go 10.0.
Straight. Kenny's out here at a dunk contest, just throwing tens up.
I am the exact opposite of the Russian judge. The exact opposite.
All right, I'll take it. The best tasting, best crushability, and best can that Kenny has ever seen. For Kenny, this is Trey. Come with the cold beers, stay with the hot takes. Peace.
If you enjoyed this episode of Tigers Untapped, please leave a like and a comment wherever you download your podcasts. Head over to bluffcitynil.com for comprehensive coverage of Memphis Tiger athletics. We will see you back here next week.